Welcome back to the One Girl Revolution podcast. It's your girl, Kate here, and I am back. I'm back with a new vigor, a new fire, a new excitement for all that we've accomplished at One Girl Revolution and all that we have to come. We took a couple of months off from the podcast. I was still posting on social media and was keeping the heartbeat of One Girl Revolution going. But to be honest with all of you, I really needed a break. But we're back, and it's just in time for Women's History Month, so it couldn't be more perfect. This podcast is overall focused on other women, and I really try to stay focused on the women and causes that we're highlighting and not to focus too much on myself in these episodes. But you all have been such faithful friends, such faithful listeners, such faithful supporters of One Girl Revolution, and I just feel really convicted to share what's been going on in my life. The past few months have been really difficult for me. I went to visit a friend a couple of weeks ago, and she was asking me about One Girl Revolution and how things were going, and I burst into tears. I shared with her about how the past few months have been incredibly difficult for me and how I was really having a hard time feeling motivated to work on One Girl Revolution and book guests for the podcast. One Girl Revolution is like breathing for me. It's so deeply connected to who I am and what I believe that I don't really know how to live without it now. I've just come so far, and I just felt like I couldn't breathe the past few months, and it was incredibly frustrating because I always have big hopes and dreams for One Girl Revolution and what I want it to be in the world and what I want to see it accomplish, what I want to see this community be and continue to accomplish, but I just couldn't find the motivation. I just couldn't get excited, and I lost creativity, which was incredibly frustrating. As I've shared before, last year was the best year of my life, but simultaneously one of the most heartbreaking and most difficult. I had the greatest honor of marrying the love of my life, but a few months later had to bury my mom, who, if you listen to this podcast, know was the first light of my life. She was the OG. She was the original One Girl Revolution and inspired me to be the person that I am today, to strive to change the world, and she's truly the inspiration behind One Girl Revolution. I read recently, I think it was on Instagram or something, just about our connection to our mom and how moms and babies have a lifelong connection, but specifically women, how we carry around a piece of our moms for the rest of our lives, and we pass that on to our children. So our children will always have a connection to our mothers as well, whether or not they know them, which I just thought was so beautiful and profound. But I want to talk about the positive things first, and then I'll share a little bit more about what's been going on in my life. First, let me talk about my husband. I want to talk about the highs and the great joys for a moment, because those are just as important as the difficult moments, if not more so. Throughout the years, I would go on dates with people and date people for a while and think maybe they're the one, but it never really worked out. I was 37 when I got married, just like Sarah Blakely, so shout out to the queen of Spanx. And if you know me, you know that I never felt anxious or stressed about whether or not I would get married. I just knew that at some point I would, when I met the right person. Well, when I met Joe, I knew. He was probably more confident than I was at first, because he went around telling everyone within earshot before our date that he was going on his first date with his future wife. Thankfully, he didn't tell me that, because that probably would have scared me off, but he was right, and I loved the person I got to know on our first date. But a few dates later, I was as convicted as he was that this was it. We got engaged 6 months later and then married 6 months after that. It was a whirlwind, but it was so perfect, and perfect for us. Engagement brought its own share of struggles. We tell every engaged couple that we know that for us and for so many others, engagement is really difficult. No one tells you that until you're actually experiencing it. And then other couples are like, oh yeah, it was really difficult. It was a really hard time in our lives. It was a really hard time in our relationship. So thanks, guys, for telling us. But we made it through and had the most perfect day, and we learned so much throughout that chapter of engagement. And then, of course, in marriage, we've learned so much in a short time, and we've been through so much together. And Joe is truly my most perfect match. three things that we talk about often, which I think is important to share for other people that are out there and other couples, that I think it's really important to take to heart, is three things. One, do you share the same values, which Joe and I do? Two, do you want the same things for your future, which Joe and I do? And three, does he or she make you a better person? Joe certainly makes me a better person. He challenges me, he supports me, he uplifts me. What a gift he is. And I hope and I know that I do the same thing for him, that I really challenge him and make him a better person too. This is just important for anyone who's dating, considering marriage, or considering a future with someone. Make sure that you hit these three things. And if not, maybe it's not the right person for you. There are also so many moments in life where you find out really quick whether or not you married the right person. It usually comes down the road after you've had a baby or kids or lost a job or dealt with some other difficulty in your life and marriage. But for us, it happened really quick. And what we went through just reaffirmed time and time again that Joe is my person, the most perfect person for me. I share that because I want it to be encouragement to other people that are out there. Maybe you feel like you're lost, or you haven't met the right person, or you're frustrated, or you wonder if the right person is out there. Just know that that person is out there. I believe that that person is out there for you. It just sometimes takes a little bit of time, but when that person is ready and when you are ready, you'll meet the right person. It'll be the most perfect time too. Looking back on my relationship with Joe, I'm so glad that we got married when we did, that we didn't wait, that we didn't kick the can down the road and say, let's wait a year. With everything that happened with my mom, which I'm going to share, my life would look a whole lot different right now. And I think it would have been so much more difficult had we been planning a wedding amidst the chaos of life, or if we had kicked the can down the road. What a gift to be married as we were going through this difficult chapter in our lives. So Joe and I got married in May, and when Joe and I got back from our honeymoon, I remember having this urgent need to spend time with our parents. So we took Joe's dad out to lunch one day. His mom passed away from cancer years ago. So we took Joe's dad out to lunch and spent time with him, and then brought dinner to my parents' house another day as soon as we got home. So that first week, we had so many other things going on, but I just felt this urgent need to spend time with our parents. My mom hadn't been feeling great for a while and even had a hard time getting motivated to go much of anywhere. We joked throughout all of my wedding festivities that my mom was just being passive aggressive, like she had been during my sister Moira's wedding a few years prior. But the reality was my mom was probably living with terminal cancer for years. So when we thought she was being passive aggressive or dragging her heels about something, she probably actually didn't feel good at all. But we just didn't know. After a few weeks of us being home after our honeymoon, we recognized that something was really wrong with my mom. In a few short weeks, she was progressively getting worse and could hardly stand to do a load of dishes. She could hardly get up the stairs and was sleeping much of the day. We convinced her to go to the ER, and after a full day of tests, blood draws, and everything else under the sun, the doctors sent her home to rest and told her that they thought it was something to do with her heart. So they told us to call the next day to set up an appointment for a stress test. My mom called the next day, and it was weeks before they could get her in. She started crying on the phone, frustrated, rightfully so, since she knew something was wrong and didn't think she would make it that long without some kind of intervention. So we loaded her back up into the car and took her to the ER for another day of tests. After another full day of tests, the ER finally did a CAT scan, and that's where they found the cancer. It was bad. It was stage 4, and it had spread. It was a rare form of cancer, cholangiocarcinoma. It started in her bile ducts, moved to her liver and gallbladder, and then the lining of her skin and her stomach. So at that point, it was untreatable and inoperable. We did take her to University of Michigan, but they said the same thing. We wanted to get a second opinion, but they said the same thing, which is frustrating, but we also were at peace. She was at peace about it, and so we were at peace. From there, we took her home, set up hospice, and tried to keep her as comfortable and happy as possible. We had 6 weeks with our mom, which thankfully, most of that she was pretty coherent. Those 6 weeks were pretty much a blur to my siblings, my dad and I, and of course our spouses, our plus ones, the in-laws and the outlaws, as we like to call them. But thankfully, we were all able to be home for most of that time, actually, switching off to make sure someone was always there to help my mom and dad, and my dad wasn't left alone with everything. We also had an outpouring of love from family and friends, people who donated to help us care for our mom, keep her comfortable, get the things that she and our dad needed, which included a new bed. People paid for house cleanings. They bought groceries and meals for us. It was the little things, truly, that made our lives so much easier during that difficult 6 weeks. But some people went above and beyond, and I don't think that I'll ever be able to properly thank those people that built a shelter around us in so many different ways. We didn't have to worry about anything except spending time with our mom and caring for her and making sure that she was happy and as comfortable as she could possibly be.
Watch One Girl Revolution's Emmy-nominated short documentary, The Girl Inside, on our YouTube channel or at onegirlrevolution.com. The Girl Inside features a poignant look at the stories of incarcerated women within Cook County Jail and a life-changing academic course taught by Dr. Laura Biaggi called Storytelling as a Healing Art. This short documentary reunites Dr. Biaggi with 5 of her former students for a special one-day course on the transformative power of our stories and our voices. And what is revealed is the girl inside. Watch the Emmy-nominated short documentary, The Girl Inside, today on YouTube or at onegirlrevolution.com.
We are so grateful. I am so grateful to each and every one of you who helped us and supported us and truly built that shelter around us. My mom passed away peacefully on September 6th, 2022, and then the next whirlwind began. So it was 6 weeks of a whirlwind, and this was just after our whirlwind of a wedding. Planning a wedding, honeymoon, which was amazing, and then getting back to another whirlwind of life. First, it was planning her funeral and burial. Then it was months of tying up loose ends, all of the things that we didn't get done or had to put on hold, and then trying to figure out what life looks like without our mom, my dad, his wife, the true matriarch of our family. I still go to call my mom to tell her something just about every day, but I take comfort in knowing that now she can see and hear it all, which is probably good and bad. She knows it all, and I truly believe that she can intercede for us, and so I try to talk to her and ask her to intercede for me and my siblings and things that we want or need. And I share that to encourage all of you. If somebody is gone and they're not in this world anymore, just believe that they can still intercede for you. I believe that. Which leads me back to the story that I started this podcast with about how a friend recently asked me how One Girl Revolution was going, and I burst into tears. I spent the fall just feeling a little lost and uninspired. I had kept my head down and powered through and kept One Girl Revolution moving forward amidst the chaos of my life over the past year. But when November hit, I started to feel completely burnt out. So I decided that I would push through and finish the year strong and take a month or 2 off from the podcast. I would still post on social media, so many of you might have seen that happening and not realize that I took time off. I would re-promote old episodes of the podcast to make sure that people were seeing things that were going on, reposting the documentaries because I'm so proud of them and so excited for people to see them and watch them time and time again, which I know many of you have, and I know that I do because they're just such inspiring stories and such inspiring women. But I would take a much needed and legit break and get back to the podcast, the documentaries, and all the big One Girl Revolution podcasts in the new year. That was my thought. I'll take a month or 2 off and then get back to it. Well, the new year rolled in and I still felt the same way. I could barely work up the energy or excitement to text or email people back, let alone send an email asking someone to be on the One Girl Revolution podcast. Also, if I got a commitment from someone to be on the podcast, how was I going to have the energy to interview them? These were the things that were going through my mind in January, and it was so frustrating because as someone who's creative, I need that creative outlet. I also care so deeply about One Girl Revolution. And like I said before, it's like breathing to me. I need to highlight these stories. I need to get to know these women. I see the importance and the critical nature of what we're doing, that these women and their causes deserve to be heard. Their voices deserve to be heard. Their stories deserve to be heard, and their causes deserve to be supported. So in some ways, I felt like I was kind of letting the girls down. I was letting the community down, but I took my time. I gave myself grace and time, which I think is so important. And it's humility. We have to really focus on recognizing that we are not the end all be all, and that in the moments where we don't have the bandwidth to step up, somebody else will carry the torch. And I will say that during that time, that really difficult time, I had so many people reach out to me, not ask anything of me, not even ask me like how I'm doing, which that felt suffocating sometimes, because how do you answer that when you feel like you're struggling, when you feel empty? But just people that messaged me to say, hey, I just listened to this episode and it really inspired me, or I went back and listened to the episode with your mom and I loved that conversation, or I watched the documentary again and I just was touched by it. I was being fed these little glimmers of hope. And so thank you to all of you who did that over the past couple of months, just reaching out, because it can feel isolating even when you're running something by yourself. I know every female business owner, every business owner, but we'll focus on women here. Every female entrepreneur, every female business owner probably feels that way from time to time, or has felt this way, that it can feel really isolating. And you wonder, am I making a difference? Am I making an impact? Do people even care? And so I felt that, but I felt my soul was fed by all of you who were reaching out, even during that time when new content, new podcast episodes, new documentaries weren't coming out, that you were still going back and watching and sharing your thoughts and your excitement with me. That fed my soul. So when my friend asked me what was going on with One Girl Revolution, I was just trying to be kind to myself and patient at that time, but I was also simultaneously frustrated. Like, why can't I get it together and just do the thing that needs to be done? But I needed to take care of myself. And so I share that because you all might be going through something, or maybe you've come through something like that, but you will come through it. You will find your passion and excitement and creativity again, but just be patient with yourself, take care of yourself, and it will come. In time, it will come. But it is really difficult to give yourself time. And, when you want to be creative, it's really difficult when you feel broken and empty. And I felt that in some ways. At the same time, I have great family, an amazing husband, and people that were there for me. So I definitely want to give them a shout out. But I was frustrated personally that I couldn't get myself together, and that I couldn't move things forward with One Girl in the way that I wanted. I love One Girl Revolution, and I just believe so deeply in what we're doing. And thankfully, now I'm back. That's why I'm recording this episode, to share with you. I feel so recharged and ready to take on 2023 with all of you and with One Girl Revolution. So I'm back just in time for Women's History Month. I can't wait to celebrate a new episode every single week. We already have March lined up, and I'm working on some really interesting, awesome episodes for April and May. So keep your eyes out for that. Make sure that you follow us on social media. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast, because we have great things coming your way. I'm recharged and ready and excited and ready to go. I also want to give a shout out to my mom. I watched P.S. I Love You the other day. I love that movie. I've watched it so many times. And if you haven't seen it, it has Hilary Swank and Gerard Butler in it. The husband dies from cancer and has letters after his death that he's written delivered to his wife. In one of the letters, he reminds her of the girl that she was when they met, this spunky, bright, vibrant girl. And then he tells her to go find that girl and he'll help. He sees the passion and vigor in her, but she kind of lost it when he died. And even though he had written these letters before his death, he knew that that's what would be happening. So he said he'll help. And he does exactly that. She ends up finding her passion again and finding herself. When I saw that scene, I felt like my mom would do the same thing for me. I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and she truly has. My mom was One Girl Revolution's biggest fan, and while I don't have her to share every single post that I've ever put up on One Girl Revolution's Facebook page, because she would do that, she would share every single thing, she's come through in spades and supported me through so much, even in the past couple of weeks, and I really believe that she's been working. The second that I was ready, all of these incredible things started happening and all these great opportunities started coming my way. First, and I want to share these things with you because it's so exciting and there's so much going on with One Girl Revolution. And so I just want to encourage each and every one of you that no matter what you're going through, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you will go through, that you will come through it and there will be these glimmers of hope, whether it be people reaching out to you to share something positive that gives you hope, or little things that start happening, little miracles in our lives. And I really have seen that happen. We have to keep our eyes out and look for those. But first, Doris Giles, we've had her on the podcast, and Project Beautiful donated a generous gift to our nonprofit organization. We have a very small budget, but I had been stressing in early January about how we were going to cover numerous things for One Girl Revolution. And when that surprise donation came in, I literally burst into tears. So major thank you to Doris and to everyone at Project Beautiful. And this is a reminder just to all of you that we are a nonprofit organization. So if you're looking for a cause to donate to, please consider donating to One Girl Revolution. We truly take pennies and turn them into gold. Every single dollar helps us continue our work. And the more funding we have, the more we can do. Third documentary is in the works, but we need the funding to make that happen. And so many other things. We need funding for the One Girl Revolution podcast to continue. We need funding for all these different projects that we're doing to support these women and their causes. And I have big hopes and dreams for what One Girl can do to continue to support all the women and the causes that we highlight on the podcast and in the documentaries. And I really want to be able to do that. So please consider donating to One Girl.
Watch In Tandem on One Girl Revolution's website or on our YouTube page. In Tandem is the inspiring story of Caitlin Cullen and her restaurant in Milwaukee, The Tandem. The Tandem does more than just serve food. The Tandem is a family, a community of support for everyone. The Tandem hires people that often no one else will hire, gives them an opportunity, trains them, and helps them find their way in this world. The Tandem is a support system for everyone who walks through their doors. But when COVID hit in March 2020, the Tandem story became even more inspiring. The Tandem closed their doors to customers and began solely feeding people in need during a time when so many people were struggling. Caitlin and the Tandem community fed over 115,000 people during the first year of the pandemic. Absolutely incredible. Watch and share In Tandem today on our website at onegirlrevolution.com.
Then opportunity started coming through for One Girl Revolution. We have a jam-packed March, Women's History Month, which is fitting, and we have some really cool other things coming up in April and May as well. This Saturday, March 4th, I'll be the keynote at Behold and Beheld, a women's retreat here in Detroit at Marygrove College. It will be a great day with incredible speakers and breakout sessions and building community amongst women. Then on Tuesday, March 7th, I'll be emceeing Rebel Nell's International Women's Day event in the evening at their headquarters in Detroit, which will feature a body positivity session, a sound bath, mural making, and so much more. You can attend this event in person or virtually. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're not in the Metro Detroit area, or you just can't make it, you can't make it out to the event, you can join us virtually, and it's going to be amazing. I attended last year online, virtually, and loved it. You also get a really cool gift box if you attend virtually or in person that includes a Rebel Nell necklace and other goodies. It's awesome. Then, as if I'm not exhausted enough thinking about that week, I'm going to be emceeing the Detroit Red Wings Women's History Night on March 8th. This is the first time they've ever done this event, and it's going to be incredible. There will be a reception, a panel discussion with some amazing history-making women, and of course, the Detroit Red Wings versus Chicago Blackhawks game that night. For more details on any of these events, you can check out our social media pages. You can also always email us at info@onegirlrevolution.com. So info@onegirlrevolution.com. So many things going on. So then later in the month of March, again, Women's History Month, so it's so exciting that all these great things are happening, I will be emceeing a fundraiser for Sanctum House, a safe home for survivors of abuse and human trafficking. Edie Franklin, their founder, has been on the podcast, so go check it out. She's episode 39. So that's going to be amazing. We'll have more details on social media, but the details for that event are getting finalized now. In April, we'll have a booth at the Shades of Pink Foundation's Zoo Walk, where we'll be interviewing cancer survivors and their families, which is so exciting. And then I'll be speaking at the Refuel Women's Conference with our girl, Kimberly Willis. She's been on the podcast and she's amazing. She's episode 160 if you want to check that one out. And I will be sure to post all of these episodes, links to all these episodes in the show notes so you can easily find them. There's so much going on and so much more to come. I just wanted to share all of this with you because I wanted to share a little bit of the behind the scenes of what's been going on and what I've been going through. And I think it's so important for me and everyone in situations like this to be transparent. So you're not wondering, oh, there hasn't been a new episode. What's going on? Is the podcast over? Is One Girl continuing? We are continuing. There's so much great stuff coming on every single Wednesday from now on. There will be a new episode of the podcast. So make sure that you subscribe. Please share it with everyone you know too. And I also wanted to share all of this going on because many of you have experienced the same thing, or maybe you're going through it right now, or maybe you will down the road. So just remember this. You know, we all go through difficult things, but it's really what we do to get through it that helps us get to the other side. And so for me, sometimes it's literally putting one foot in front of the other. So this is my encouragement to you to stay the path, embrace this journey of life. Be patient with yourself and be patient with the journey. Life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And sometimes all you can do is, like I said, literally put one foot in front of the other. And sometimes you just need to rest. A dear friend of mine always says that the revolution never sleeps. It just takes naps from time to time. So take a nap. Take naps. Take care of yourself. Along with all these great events, we have some big things coming up for the podcast. Amazing guests, new stories, new causes to promote. Every Wednesday, like I said, from now on, we'll have a new episode for you. So make sure that you're subscribed wherever you listen to the One Girl Revolution podcast. Just search the One Girl Revolution podcast or the number One Girl Revolution, and you'll find it. Hit subscribe and please share with everyone you know. And what a way to celebrate Women's History Month by committing to listening to the stories and the voices of history-making women on the One Girl Revolution podcast and through our documentaries, and by sharing them. What a way to celebrate Women's History Month. During Women's History Month, we often focus on the stories of women throughout our history that have changed the world. And there are many of them, and they deserve to be celebrated. Two that have always inspired me are Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks. But what about the women in our world today that are making history every single day? I look around every day and see women and girls that are changing the world through their lives and making history. And I encourage all of you to do the same. There are sisters, there are neighbors, there are other women and girls in our communities. There are women we see on social media that are making a difference. We need to keep our eyes open and look for those women and look for ways that we can support them. We should celebrate these women in our lives and in our communities as well. And that's what we're dedicated to here at One Girl Revolution. Women are making history every single day, and we should strive to be those women and celebrate those women. Celebrate women during Women's History Month by listening to and sharing the One Girl Revolution podcast and our Emmy-nominated documentaries, and show your support for One Girl Revolution in any way that you can. I encourage you to donate to our nonprofit and or buy a t-shirt on our website to support our work. We have so many great things going on. And so you can find all of our podcast episodes, our documentaries, the One Girl Revolution t-shirts, a link to donate, and so much more on our website at onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number one, girlrevolution.com. I just want to give a shout out again to everybody who has listened to this podcast. Thank you for all of your love and support of One Girl Revolution throughout the years, but especially as I walked through this really difficult past few months. One Girl Revolution isn't going anywhere, and we have so many great things to come, so many exciting things planned for the podcast, big hopes and dreams for the documentaries, and other big things coming up. So if you want to get involved, please reach out to me. If you want to know how you can support our work, or if you have ideas for stories that we should cover, or ideas for ways that we can continue to support the women and girls in our network, please reach out to me. Again, you can email me anytime at info@onegirlrevolution.com, info@onegirlrevolution.com. There's so much great stuff to come, and check out our podcast next week for a new episode. And thank you all. I love you all. So big things are coming for One Girl Revolution in 2023. Get ready. Let's go.
Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at One Girl Revo. That's the number One Girl REVO. And you can find more information on One Girl Revolution at onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com.